I received a very supportive message from somebody, and he posed some very interesting topics that I want to touch upon. I'm gonna read about some of the things that he said that would spark some of my ideas here. Um, it says American society undervalues and even minimizes the contributions Asian males make in this country, and I think that's very true. And it's not just the males, but it's also the females. I don't really see that many Asian females that are greatly appreciated by American society either. Um, Bruce Lee was battling this during his time, and I think Bruce Lee was living during a time where there was like a big transitional change in the way of America. Um, he was living during a time when there was a lot of people that were trying to make some great changes for society. Um, Living during the time of Muhammad Ali trying to break through, for the African Americans and gain some respect through his sport of boxing. You know, his time in the ring wasn't just associated with just the sport alone, but it had a lot to deal with the racism between the blacks and the whites. During that time, there was also Malcolm X trying to fight for equality, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. trying to fight for equality. Um, JFK trying to fight against the corruption in the government. Um, there was the Vietnam War going on, and that was against the Asian um, country. America against Vietnam. There's already that hatred built right there. The U.S. tried to basically turn all the Americans against the Vietnamese, right? And then there's this thing that happened with the Pearl Harbor, that America would turn all the Americans against the Japanese. Um, and then America was they're in great fear of communism taking over the world because of such a big influence over there in the East, with the China and Vietnam and all this other stuff from the East, and Russia. They didn't want communism to overtake the world, so they turned against all those Asian countries. Um, Bob Marley, I believe, was living around that time as well. He was somebody that would, make music about something significant. John Lennon was during that time would make music about peace, and then he ended up getting assassinated. Basically, through all this time, you know, Bruce Lee was in the mix as well. There's a lot of racism going on. A lot of racism. The main focus was the whites and the blacks, but there was also the racism between the whites and the Asians as well. You know, Basically during that time they felt that it was okay to be a Nazi. They felt it was okay to suppress all races. Not just the Asians and the blacks, but just all the races, suppress all the races, and then basically have this white Nazi supremacy state of mind. And just think about it, it wasn't too long ago. It wasn't that long ago that this happened. So we're going through this transitional phase, and Bruce Lee had to try to fight through this racism, but he didn't have enough support in America. Really, even the blacks, it's a continuous struggle. And it's a continuous struggle for them to gain equality and to become a part of this entertainment industry in America. You see the blacks are pretty much dominating the sporting industry. They dominate all the sports, the football, the basketball. They're all over the baseball. They're like dominating a lot of the sports, boxing, dominating a lot of sports in America. So it's the blacks that are dominating it, and then there's the whites. And you see the music industry, it's all filled with whites mainly, and some blacks. Right? Look at the movie industry, it's just mainly all whites, some black movies, and that's where it ends. I feel that the people in power, they didn't want to give any of their, they didn't want to share their power with the blacks, but because the blacks united and fought so hard to fight for equality, the whites ended up having to share the power with the blacks. So basically, you got the whites and the blacks that are just dominating the entertainment industry. And the entertainment industry, when it comes to movies and music and the media in general, is the hugest, contribution to the formulation of a human being's mind, and what they think, and what they feel, and their stereotypes and their beliefs is dominated by the whites, and now they're sharing some of that power with the blacks. I mean, it might be 70% white and 30% black, and then the Asians are just out of the picture. I mean, Hispanics, I feel, have a stronger power in America than the Asians. I feel that the Hispanics, they unite more than the Asians. I think that the Asians have a lot of conflict within their own people. I see that the Japanese and the Chinese are constantly at war, and you see it all over the entertainment that comes out of the Asia. A lot of Chinese produced movies are basically promoting racism against the Japanese. And with the history with Japan and China, is not a good history from far as what I know. You got the rape of Nanking, was what I believe I've read, is where Japanese people just killed a bunch of Chinese for just no apparent reason. Killed hundreds of thousands of them. So there's a lot of hatred between the Chinese and the Japanese. And there's a lot of hatred between Tibet and Chinese, because the Chinese government is trying to take over Tibet, and the whole thing with Dalai Lama and everything. There's a lot of hatred over there. There's just a lot of hatred between, from what I know, a lot of hatred between just the North and South Korea. They're divided, and they absolutely hate each other with a passion. I mean, the Thailand and Cambodia and Vietnam and all these Asian countries, they're not, in India, they're not getting along. And this division makes it even harder for Asian Americans to fight for equality in America. I mean, there's just no support whatsoever for one another. The whites aren't going to stand up for the Asians. The blacks aren't going to stand up for the Asians, because as far as what the blacks see, the Asians are very racist towards them. If a black person goes to China right now, they look at him with a lot of racism, and they could feel it. Even if a black man goes to Chinatown in Chicago, he's going to feel a lot of racism from the traditional Chinese people. So the blacks feel a lot of racism from the Chinese, so they're not going to stick up for the Chinese. And the whites aren't going to stick up for the Chinese, because they want to stay in power. They don't want to share their power with the Chinese or the Asians in general. And then the Asians don't stick together together either. They're divided amongst themselves. So basically, the Asian American is just basically left alone. He's a loner. He has no support. I mean, the blacks come together to fight for equality. They fight in the struggle. The blacks work together. Even though there's a lot of black on black crime, they work together, to try to make some changes. Even when I was in law enforcement, there was a lot of racism towards the blacks, that were officers as well. But they would come together and basically fight for justice. So a black officer, for example, would be called the N-word, and then they made a huge deal out of it. I mean, they had to pay him out some money. I don't know exactly how much money, but it might have been over $100,000 or whatever the case may be, just because they call him the N-word. But then for me, I come in there, they call me a chink several times, and then I get absolutely nothing, and then I get wrongfully terminated, and then I get pushed out of the field, because I had no support. Nobody wanted to stand up for me. I had no Asians that were supporting me. The blacks didn't give a damn, because this wasn't dealing with their own race, and the whites, the whites that were cool didn't want to get involved, because they didn't want to put their jobs in jeopardy. And it was just no support. You know, I see that being an Asian American in America is extremely difficult. You know, it's like even Bruce Lee himself had to go back to Asia to gain fame. He couldn't get fame here in America. You know, Bruce Lee couldn't do it, and you see how talented he was, and how much of a legend he was. So if Bruce Lee couldn't do it, then who the hell can do it? There's nobody. Absolutely nobody. Bruce Lee couldn't even do it himself. And the fact of the matter is, because he gained fame in Asia, and then the fame just trickled on over to America, and he ended up getting worldwide fame out of pure accident and pure luck. The people in power, they see this happening, and they're basically setting it up that they pretty much see what happened, and they're like, this will never happen again. There will never ever be another Bruce Lee, because we'll never allow the American people to look up to a Chinese person, or to idolize a Chinese person, or to idolize an Asian person. The American people will never do that. And Bruce Lee will be the first and the only. And luckily he's dead already. I'd see that's what the mentality is. They learn from their mistakes, and it's never going to happen again. For example, you know, they saw what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did. They're like, you know what? This person is gaining too much attention. He's getting too much of a following. He's educating too many black people. We're not going to allow this. We're going to kill him. And from now on out, same thing with Malcolm X as well. Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., this will never happen again. As soon as any black person shows any signs of being the next Martin Luther King Jr., like a Tupac Shakur, they're going to kill him off immediately. Tupac Shakur got killed at the age of 25. I believe Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is around the age of 40. They know, they will see a person that's growing to become something like a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., they're going to kill him. There's another person that used to be part of the Black Panthers. I think his name was like Fred Hampton or something. He was a young guy, under the age of 25, I believe. And they killed him. They just basically had the police assassinate him. You know, so anytime there's going to be a minority leader that's going to be representing some great changes in this world, they're going to immediately kill him. Bruce Lee was representing a great, you know, becoming a great leader to represent, to try to make some great changes for the world. They killed him. But it's not even about race anymore. Just any person. Because John Lennon was a white guy, but the government was against him too. Because he was speaking against the Vietnam War. He even was married to an Asian woman, and they saw his ideas are all just about peace and love and all that compassion. It's like, we're not going to have this. I don't care what your skin color is, we're going to kill you. So they ended up killing him too. So anytime anybody, especially if they're a minority, they represent something like a higher cause, they're going to kill them before they make too much of an impact. So I don't ever see any Asian American ever being like worldwide, you know, achieving worldwide fame. I don't ever see no Asian American being like a Brad Pitt, or like a Will Smith, or like a Denzel Washington, or just somebody that's just like idolized by the American people. I don't see that. I don't see no Asian American being like a Robert De Niro or an Al Pacino. I don't see that. You know, it's just, this is how the world is, and it's just basically, it's easier just to accept it the way it is and just move on. You know, as for myself, I don't even watch TV. I don't even really watch the movies. I just create my own stuff, create my own videos, live my life with my family, respond back to questions that people may have, and just basically enjoy my life as is. I don't pay attention. I don't really listen to music. The music I listen to are instrumentals that I download from people on YouTube. You know, I don't pay attention to the mass media, because I know that the mass media is heavily corrupted and is used as a method of mind control, and to further reinforce stereotypes, and to pretty much promote racism and segregation and discrimination. I see that that's what's going on with this mass media, and I don't want to take any part of it. You know, and I see that there's major problems, but this is how the world is. I mean, you put too much effort to try to change the world, they're just gonna kill you. They're just gonna kill you. It's so easy to kill you nowadays. I mean, I saw this documentary on the CIA. They created this gun that shot out a needle with poison in it, and it's undetectable. And what the needle does is you put the poison in it, and then it hits you. It doesn't even leave a trace, and then the poison goes inside of you, and then you die of the same symptoms of what you would die from a heart attack. So then the people would just assume that you got a heart attack, or then when they do the autopsy, all they see is that you died from a heart attack. So they got these lethal ways of killing people that doesn't even leave a trace. And what they did to Osho is they put him in a prison cell, and they pretty much put him in a bed that was full of radiation. And then the radiation just basically infected his body, and then just made him die earlier than he would have died, naturally. I mean, the CIA and the government, the corrupted government, they have their ways to kill people without making a big deal out of it. They don't need to hire a sniper to assassinate John F. Kennedy like they did in the past. Now they'll kill somebody with more intelligence, to not make a big stir and not to make a big deal. But they still did the assassination, as far as how Tupac Shakur died. I mean, with the way the world is right now, you can't really do much. You just gotta see how it is and be like, you know what, this is how the world is. And Asian Americans are suppressed severely, but we should at least be thankful that we live in America, because you look at over in China, it's not anything even close to being better. I mean, you got a bunch of millions of Chinese people that are working for like 25 cents an hour. They're working like 16-hour shifts, 7 days a week, and they're just factory workers. They're just slaves. I mean, they live like a very horrible life, full of poverty. But here in America, even if you're Asian American, even if you're considered poor, you still live a good life. You still got a place to stay. You still got food to eat. You still got a decent job that pays okay, and you still got opportunities. You might never make it to the entertainment industry or never be like famous and be a huge influence for the world, but you can still make it. There's a lot of Asians that are making it. And for example, as far as statistical wise, Asians are considered the richest people in the US, even above the whites. Because they just do everything in the backdrop. They own a lot of businesses, they save their money well, they invest their money well, and they're the richest race in America. You see a lot of these, you look into a lot of these business owners, these small business owners, they're operated by Asians. Indians and Chinese and Koreans, I mean, they all know how to manage businesses. And you look at who has the best grades. It's usually the Asians that have the best grades. So they're doing a lot of they're influencing society in a great way, impacting the society in a great way, but behind the scenes. There might be a lot of Asian scientists, a lot of Asian nurses, and a lot of Asian doctors. There's just a lot of, just Asians in general. Like, all the people in China are the ones that are making all our products. They're in the backdrop, but they're not in the limelight like the whites and the blacks that are like getting all the attention. And it's never gonna be that way, because the whites didn't want to share. They didn't want to share their power with the blacks, but the blacks fought so hard. Okay, fine, we'll let you share a little bit. We'll let you, we'll let you be, take like 30% of the power, whatever the case may be. But they're still retaining their 70%, and they're not going to give that up. I mean, look at like how many presidents we had in the United States. Say we have 150 presidents, and only one of them is black. All right, we have 149 presidents that are white. Okay, we'll let one black person in. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just like the hip-hop industry, We have all black rappers, or we'll let one white person in. We'll let Eminem in. That's it. We're not closing doors to everybody else. No other white guys getting in. No Asians are getting in. It's staying black, and that's how it's going to be. I mean, that's pretty much what's happening. You understand? And that's how the world is. And I just see that it is that way, and it's just gonna stay that way, and I just accept it, and I just live my own life, and I don't allow this stuff to corrupt my mind. I don't pay attention to it. I don't watch these stupid movies. I don't watch the TV. I don't listen to the music. I find the music from the underground music on YouTube. I watch my own videos, and I create my own videos. You know, I don't need to watch this stuff. You know what I'm saying? I stay away from it. You know, I think that that's a good cure. You know, so you don't get, you know, basically that shows your ultimate. That's the ultimate way to protest. You just don't support it. You know, a racist movie, then just don't watch it. Racist music video, don't watch it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you see that all these people are just getting famous just because of their skin color. They don't even have talent. Well, don't give them attention. Don't let them be. Don't admire them. There's nothing to admire. They don't even have talent. They just had the opportunity because they grew up in a rich family, and because of the color of their skin. I mean, look at like Will Smith. You know, his son's just automatically famous, automatically rich. Is his son talented? No. He's just his son, so he's automatically rich, automatically famous, and that's how a lot of people in the entertainment industry, why they're famous, just because they're born famous, they're born rich. You know, and that's just how the world works, and I accept that. You know, and I'm not gonna fight against it. You know, I'm thankful that at least there's the YouTube to even allow me the opportunity to share a part of my art to the world. I'm thankful for that. You know, just like, you know, like I said, you know, I mean, it sucks with this racism and discrimination here in America, but it's nothing compared to the bullshit that's going on in the other countries in the East, like India and China and Thailand. I mean, there's freaking like Thai prostitutes that are like sucking dick for like $5 an hour. All these Chinese workers are working like 25 cents an hour. You know, everybody's all poor, like dirt poor all in the East. I mean, their own government with their own skin color, their own people are enslaving them. It's just like the black on black crime. So imagine like blacks are being racist against their own people. That's pretty much what's going on in the East. So it doesn't matter. No matter what, there's going to be somebody that's enslaved. You know, if it's not going to be the black person, then it's going to be the Chinese person. That's what's pretty much happening. You know, the whites, you know, they figured out that blacks they're not going to put up with this enslavement. So they're like, all right, we'll let the Chinese be enslaved then. We'll just let them do it. They got 1.3 billion people over there. They're bound to find somebody that's willing to work for 5 cents an hour, and they will. I mean, it's just so many damn people. That's why they're able to just get the cheapest labor possible, because they're just so desperate over there. You know, and it's just it's very sad, but this is how the world is. You know, and I see all this stuff going on, and I'm like, you know what? Even though it's not perfect here in America, I'm thankful for the opportunities that we have here. You know, I don't come from a rich family, obviously. I'm not rich myself. Nothing comes easy for me. I gotta work hard. I'm never gonna be like rich and famous, but I don't care. You know, I'm okay living a simple life, and I'm thankful for the life that I'm living now. And the opportunities that I do have. I mean, just like the YouTube thing, you know, I'm thankful that I have this opportunity. You know, so I'm looking at the positives of living in America. But I obviously see what can be improved. You know, but me making these videos in general, sharing my thoughts is at least a step towards improvement. At least it gets people to potentially get some people to just like open their eyes a little bit and just think a little bit and just be like, you know what, you know, he's right. You know, and maybe I shouldn't support that. Maybe I should stop watching those movies. Maybe I should stop buying that music. You know, maybe I should subscribe to Freddie's channel and watch his videos and not watch all this other bullshit that's going on out there. You know, so little by little, That's how I see it. Little by little, change is possible, and that's what gives me a lot of motivation in what I do. Is that every single person in this world can make a difference. You might not be like a Malcolm X or Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or Bruce Lee, but hey, you could still make a change little by little, and still make a huge impact in society.